Welcome to Aging in Place Strategies and Answers with Linda Prio. Will it be possible to remain in my home as I age? Do I feel safe in my home? How do I figure out how much support I will need when my health needs start to change? What if I decide to move into a community instead? Which community will meet my needs now and in the future? Who will play a role in helping me with decision making? Do you ask yourself these same questions? Aging in Place Strategies and Answers can help you gain practical knowledge that will help you create your own Aging in Place roadmap. If you are already a care partner, a power of attorney, or in crisis mode with your Aging in Place strategy, you will learn what you need to know that you don't know. For over 20 years, I have been marketing Aging in Place services to clients and educating families and healthcare professionals in how to put aging in place strategies into place. When you utilize aging in place, you are allowed to choose where you want to live and make those decisions so that you can retain your quality of life.
Good morning, everyone. It's a great Sunday morning, and we're here to listen and talk about. I don't like to say long-term care. I like to say aging strategies, because as we all age, we all enter this time in our life when we're uncomfortable with where we are, and we just need more answers to the questions that we have. Today, I brought Linda Prio again. I wanted to make sure that we had enough time, and last time it just wasn't enough. I have so many more questions still for her. She is an expert in her field, and she is an advocate. She's an advocate, and she gives guidance to people that are going through this process. She has an amazing podcast, which she will also let you guys know about, but I wanted to welcome Linda back to the show. Linda, thanks for coming.
Hey, thanks so much. I appreciate being here, of course. And it really makes me happy, Matt, that when I approached you and said, hey, could we do this? You were on board right away.
Without a doubt.
Because this is going to happen to all of us. And I've just seen too much and been a part of so many people's lives in my career, as well as my own family who reached out to me and my own parents.
And obviously the key to being an advocate is really education. What I would say is today, let all the things you've heard before fall by the wayside. Be open.
Yes.
Be open to getting advice. Our goal is to understand how we can make better decisions. Not that someone else would necessarily make them for us. This is guidance. And that's how we built our entire practice with Fyra Capital Management here in St. Louis. It's why we've been on the radio for so long, is we've helped people by guiding them and not by selling them and not by showing them things that they are required to do, but giving them options through time. And that's why we brought Linda, as Linda knows. She knows the options that exist. She knows how to get from A to B, and she knows how to take someone there. So Linda, for people that are listening, what is the name of your podcast? And I know you can find it if you have, and I'm not trying to be specific, but if you have an Apple phone, an iPhone, there is a green app on your phone that says podcast. It looks like an eye with two circles around it. You could click on that, and you could enter this, and you could get to her podcast.
Yeah, Amazon, Google, which is now YouTube, Odyssey, Pandora. I mean, there's just
endless.
So many places. So I was just really fortunate that I was picked up by so many places. But I feel like this is a topic that is really relevant at a time where there are more seniors becoming retired, more seniors stepping into this space than ever before, us coming out of a pandemic and trying to figure out what this is going to look like. And what was old was old. Now we're in a whole new world now.
And let's not forget that advocacy does not mean ask your friend when you're sitting there eating chips at a party. Advocacy means get information from experts in their field. Not, well, my friend Bill told me this, and Sally definitely thought that this was the best way to go. Though it may be the best way to go, you need to know some of the other pitfalls that exist with that way that you're going. So what's the name of the podcast again?
Aging in Place, Strategies and Answers.
Aging in Place, Strategies and Answers. Write it down, folks. You need to listen to it. Would they be able to put your name in and find it, or would they
I don't think so. I think they need the name of the show.
Okay.
But you can find me on YouTube and other places, Facebook. So I'm sure you're going to find it. And if you really had trouble, then you would reach out to linda.agingstrategies@gmail.com, and I can help you from there.
I'll just tell you this. If you don't know Linda in this industry, you probably haven't been in St. Louis for long. Linda's very, very well known. I have spoken at almost every community that you can think of. Obviously, this is in the past 4 or 5 years ago, but her name was synonymous with help and education in the industry. She's very, very well known. So if you haven't heard of her, many, many others have. Consider yourself lucky to be listening to her today.
Thanks, Matt.
So Linda, do me a favor. Obviously, just like when I'm trying to lose weight and my wife and my kids, they look at me and they think after I've lost 10 pounds, I haven't lost anything. Why? Because they're around me all the time. And then I'll have my son come in from KU where he's studying and he's like, wow, Dad, you lost a lot of weight. So there are kids that live out of town and there are kids that live in town. And your spouse or your kids that are in town might say, no, Mom and Dad are fine. Mom has no issues whatsoever, and Dad is as great as he ever was. Maybe getting a little bit slower, but I think he's just tired. And then one of the sons or daughters comes in town, and they go, that is not Dad. That is not the same person. Something's changed. He is definitely slowing down, and you have to talk to your brothers and sisters about it, or your mother, or your father. If something like that happens, Linda, tell us some of the signs to look for that may indicate, all right, I've got to get a plan together here.
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully you know your loved one best, and then you know what deviates from their plan of living, right? So if your loved one has never really been caring about how they dress or how they look, having a different expectation, that would be a given, right? Because that's just the way they were.
My dad wore shorts, high white socks with sandals, of course, and a white undershirt. So I don't think he really cared about the way he looked. So that wasn't a sign for me to see that Dad had been going down. But some people can look at that and say, they're not dressing the same. They're looking kind of, I know that he's worn that shirt in the past few days and there's stuff on it.
Yeah.
And that wasn't from today.
Yeah.
So that's one way. Tell me some more.
Yeah. So I always say to people who know me best, I always say, if I don't have my hair done, my makeup on, and some jewelry, you probably need to take me to the doctor because I'm not feeling well. It's just who I am. So we're all different. So that, just to share that information. But obviously, you can look around the home environment. What does it look like? Is the house starting to not see, regular maintenance not being done? I would also say that bills piling up, or maybe insurance paperwork piling up, or having lots of piles of paperwork that's really not getting put away or sorted or dealt with. Opening the refrigerator.
My gosh, I didn't think about that.
Is there repeat buying patterns? Some people will go to the store because they know they're supposed to go to the store. It's something they've done all the time, but they're buying the same product. So now they have
3 gallons of milk.
Oh my gosh. I will share. My ballet teacher for years ago, she said, I like ice cream. And I said, well, yeah, I knew you liked ice cream. And so she went down and she showed me her freezer. She had like 50 gallons of ice cream down there. I'm like, okay, for one small person that weighed 110 pounds, I thought that was extreme. And she had no idea. She had had a stroke. And so that was my tip off. Claiming that other people are doing something to you, right? I had a client and she said, somebody's listening in on me. Somebody's listening in. I just know it. Now, these people upstairs that live upstairs, they're doing this and that and the other thing. So, we're looking for mental status changes, paranoia, maybe repeated stories, but don't take that too close to heart because my daughter told me I told her story twice already.
I was going to say, if that's true, I have it.
Yes, right. But you can tell a pattern. So when we go and we visit with people, when I was at Continuum, when we were in clients' homes, and we would listen. And sometimes, people can fake it really good. But if you're there for longer than 3 to 5 minutes and you're hearing the same story again, it's on a loop. So we're looking for that. We're looking for if people have dropped weight. So in Matt, your case and mine, we're always trying to drop weight, 10 pounds here, 5 pounds there. But a senior who's dropped a significant amount of weight is a red flag. Are they forgetting to eat? Do they have food to eat? Are they able to get out to get food? What is going on here? Spoiled foods in their fridge. What about the medications? What kind of mayhem and madness is there? And what about the laundry?
And what do? Do you just ask them and say, hey, Mom, play dumb. I don't really know what you do for medications every week. Can you kind of show me? What do you take? I know you take a few medications. And my mom would retort with, oh, no, I take a lot, and it's this and this and this. Are those signs as well to see how they take it and just ask them their own plan?
Yeah. Matt, it's a trust. We want to make sure that dignity is uppermost in our minds. This is all about you. And so I don't want to appear that you're not an intelligent human being that can sort this out. But people like to hide things.
You bet.
But you can only kid a kid or so long. We had a product that was a medication dispenser. It was electronic. And families are like, I don't know whether they're taking their medications or not. Well, ask the pharmacist. If they're not getting them refilled, that's a pretty good indicator.
There you go.
Oh, no, my parent doesn't have any dementia, but they do seem to be a little confused on their medications. Well, let's get that dispenser in place because it's going to tell the story. If you go in and you see the pill planner and Monday, Wednesday, and Friday are not taken, that's a pretty good indicator. If you look at their pill planner, and I'm just talking about a glance, but this is what professionals do. We know what we're looking for. If we just take a glance at it and every day in those slots are not set the same, we learned this in preschool. But one thing doesn't look like the other.
That's right.
So there's all those signs that are going to be around. Frequent hospitalizations, red flag. What's going on?
What about frequent accidents? What I realized is my father was going through, these little fender benders. They weren't a big deal, and he wouldn't really tell anybody. But every time I would talk to my mom, she's like, why is Dad driving your car? She's like, well, his car's in the shop. I'm like, oh, really? And then what happens in large families? I get a call from my brother, and then my sister from Kansas City, and my other brother from Lisa. They're telling me everything. I'm going, man, I got to get over there. Dad never told me that. So maybe kind of little white lies or things you find out about.
Absolutely. I mean, and I do think uppermost is how do you want to be talked to? Like, I'm not stupid. Don't talk to me like I'm stupid. I have rights. And the beautiful thing about having a third party is that's always the way we approach it. And so where families would have those conversations, what's going on here?
Oh, stern, Dad, Mom, this is what has to, yes.
Usually the adult child has said, Dad should not be driving.
Yes.
And then you go look at the car. Oh, can I check out your car and see if it's tagged and insured? And you're looking and you can see all those little fender benders. Then we're just confirming what you've already told us. So really, be appropriate with your parents because you're going to want the same act of kindness when you're aging. Okay?
You better believe it.
I want you to come alongside of me and help me out and say, hey, Mom, this is time. Of course, with my kids now with the podcast, what my daughter said? Mom, I need to catch up on aging in place strategies and answers. And I said, oh, gosh, I can just see it now. Podcast 3, Mom. Don't you remember? We've got to put that in place now. So,
guys, we'll be right back after this. This is solid gold for me to hear these signs. Obviously, we're all going through this process in different levels with our parents, with our brothers and sisters, with maybe even our own spouses. So let's talk a little bit more on the other side of this break. Enjoy the break. We'll see you on the other side.
Now, a word from our sponsor.
Are you looking for resources on senior living? Check out guideforseniorliving.com for our free online senior resource guide to find senior housing, care, and community connections. Start searching now at guide 4 seniorliving.com. That's guideforseniorliving.com to find the contact information for senior housing, care, and community connections.
Now let's return to the podcast.
Okay, and we're back. This is Fyra Capital Management. I'm back here with Linda Prio. She does a podcast now. I would say she's semi-retired, so she's only working 40 hours a week. So Linda's back with us. She was going over some signs before the commercial break, what things to look for in order to take the next step that she's going to talk about very soon, and that is, what do we do If I know that my parents or my spouse or my brothers or sisters are showing signs of wear and tear, maybe slight dementia, or maybe forgetting certain things, or things aren't necessarily as, like you said, clean in the house when you come by, or there's a weight loss that they're experiencing, and they're not trying to lose weight. If those things occur, Linda, what's the next step? Where would they go, and what do they do to get the advice that you offer?
Yeah, so you can obviously go to your medical professional and ask those questions. If they've been in the hospital, you can always talk to the social worker or case manager. Word of mouth is always great because, people do have services at home and know who to call. But if you don't, then the internet is perfect because you're going to be able to connect by Googling home care. And remember that there's non-medical home care, such as what I discussed, which is private pay services that you would hire for the home. But there's also a skilled medical home care that is covered by your insurance. Make the phone call. It doesn't matter that you don't know what to ask. A lot of our phone calls come in at either first thing in the morning or end of the day. And the reason why is because the adult child says, I needed to make this phone call. I've got to get it in. So right at about 5 to 5, we're getting phone calls like that. And they'll start off saying, I don't know what I don't know. I don't even know what questions to start asking. I go, it's okay. We got this.
And that's a great way to tell if the people are working for you. If it's an advocate and they're guiding you through this process, you're going to have a period of time when you can breathe in and breathe out. When they're talking to you where you feel as though someone is they're about to, or they already are helping you, walking you through that process. Don't get me wrong. I've worked in I've spoken in many communities, whether it's memory, nursing, or assisted living, or just a community that carries everything from independent all the way through to hospice. I've been to those before, and they're not bad. They're actually very helpful. It's just, I wouldn't want a client to call a specific location and say, hey, how can you help me? Because you know that underlying that advice is they're kind of gearing you and steering you towards what they offer. So this is a time when Google or ChatGPT or any of those types of things, getting advice can be on your own for a while until such time as you need a professional like Linda out there. And you have to, this is why she does a podcast, folks. She does it so that you listen to it and you get some of the answers you need, but you really just start to kick the door open and say, I don't know what I don't know. Guys, I'll be honest with you. I changed my own oil when I started in the business 25 years ago for the first 3 or 4 years. I would sit there at night and iron my own shirts. I know that sounds weird, but it does now. But now, though I know how to do it, I appreciate those that do it that much more. I don't have the time to do that with 6 kids, and let's be honest, I never really did it well. So hiring a professional in that situation it's leaps and bounds better than what I could have done. It's good to have the knowledge, but I needed someone to educate me on it. So Linda's here to give you that education, and her podcast is here to give you that education and walk you through scenarios. Linda, can you walk us through a scenario, and obviously don't use names, but when someone came and they were scared to death, and then they walked away feeling like they could make the decision, and you know that they made the right one?
Yeah, absolutely. So generally, an advocate or a third party or a geriatric care manager, or even folks that work for companies like the one I did, will offer a free, no obligation visit. So by making the phone call, talking to other people, you're going to get an idea of who knows what they're talking about and who does not. But also inviting them into the home is another great step. In that way, you get to know them and they get to know you, and you ask the questions. Remember, you're the one making the decision. You're the one hiring the person. So always coming into the home, we're there to first say, look, this is a no obligation visit, and we're here to try to problem solve with you so that you can get back to your former way of life or to see what the new normal is. And so by asking specific questions about, okay, why were you in the hospital? Or why were you at rehab? What led up to that? And then usually, there's an interested family member in the room. We love that, having an interested family member, because who doesn't want a second ear?
And what happens? It gets lost in translation. Just like
Correct.
I told you before, I said, my dad would go to the doctor alone. He would come home and he would tell my mother, the doctor says I'm as strong as an ox. I said, well, I've never heard a doctor say that, one. And two, if he's looking at 30 things, he might say, well, you're strong as an ox when it comes to lifting a box. But I mean, what he would do is it was always lost in translation, like the old game of telephone. So having other sets of ears in the room, especially those that may be there to help make that decision in the future, when mom or dad turns to daughter that's a nurse practitioner, or son that's in the industry as well, or whatnot. When they turn to them, they've already heard it all straight from the mouth of the professional. Guys, think about it this way. A professional is someone, and they don't necessarily need to be older. Linda, you're what, 21?
Yeah, at least that. Maybe 3 times.
Right, she's right around that. But what I'm saying is, normally people look at professionals in their field as being people that are older than the age of 40. They've dealt with these situations. I can tell you this, whether Linda's 21 or whatever she said, she's dealt with these situations more times and more often than hopefully any of you will ever deal with those situations. So having the advice from a person that knows, giving it to you for free on a podcast, what an amazing benefit. What an amazing benefit.
Yeah, I was thinking of a story while you were talking, Matt. It was a gentleman, and he also had a brother, but his mother was coming out of behavioral health. And, you can't kid a kidder. I know what they're talking about, and I asked the right questions. And so I found out very quickly. He called me. He said, this is what we want. We want assisted living. My mom's coming out of the hospital. She needs assisted living. But he said, we were supposed to call you too. So she doesn't want to go to assisted living.
So it was an afterthought. Really what she wanted was them to call you so you could talk them off the fence and you could say, hey, let's step back here.
Yeah.
Let's get the real answers before we make decisions.
Yeah. So he said, my mom doesn't want assisted living. She wants to try to figure out if she can be at home. And I said, well, if you don't mind, would you just share with me a couple of the details? And he said, oh, yes. My mom mixed her medications with Southern Comfort, and it didn't really work well for her.
I've heard that's bad.
Yeah, it didn't work good for her. So, I mean, she's just one person.
Case by case basis, I guess.
Yeah. So that told me that something else was going on. Something deeper was going on, because obviously that's not, most people take their medications with water.
You bet.
So we're looking for those things that are off the norm. But what he told me first is my mom doesn't want to go. And I said, how do we know that your mother needs assisted living? This is her opportunity, and it's your opportunity to figure out how much or how little care your mom actually needs. And the only way we're going to learn this on her behalf is to get her home. That's where she wants to go. We're going to be a safety net. If she then fails, then we know what we'll be here to then share what could be possible next steps for you. I said, we don't know if she really needs that much care. And so when you think about your assets, I mean, do you really just throw money out the window?
My father would avoid going to long-term care to save the money for my mother. And the sad thing is my mother would probably do the same. But aging in place, guys and gals, is not always going to a different location where you can get better service. You can get service, really good service at home. And you may not need extensive service. You might need, and listen very carefully, caregivers. If you're not looking at respite care is you having a day off, you having hours of the day off where you can either go shopping or go get coffee or start to think on your own and not think, what do I have to do next? Do I have to change them? Do I have to get them baked? Like, you need care as well, because guess what? That saw will not cut down another tree if it's not sharp. And if you are not sharp and you're overworked and you're tired, it's not going to work very well. So going through this process, having an advocate there, for me, having a third party giving you advice it's innumerable in benefits. It's impossible to define how beneficial it is through a process that no one elected. No one is electing to go through this process, but how many people will? Nearly everyone. Nearly everyone will go through this process, and they can go through it, like I said before, reactively, where they're making decisions without the knowledge, or proactively, where they're listening to podcasts, they're getting the information, and that's why Linda's here today. Linda, I'm going to have you back so many times. You have no idea.
Oh, great. I'm so excited.
You guys are going to continue to learn a lot, and some of these are not meant for you to work with Fyra Capital Management. They're meant for you to understand the things that we have to know and the people that we have to know in these situations, that we can bring you advice that's from a professional and not necessarily from us. So once again, I want to thank you, Linda, for coming today, and we look forward to hearing from you very soon. Everyone out there, enjoy your Sunday. Do something crazy today, something that makes you feel uncomfortable, because if you're not living, you're just not living. Enjoy it. We'll see you on the flip side. We'll see you guys next week. This is Fyra Capital Management. Hope you enjoyed the show.
Thank you for joining me today. Please remember that this podcast is intended as guidance and not advice. Share this podcast with friends and family who are currently in crisis mode, or with people who would like to start developing their own roadmap for aging in place. Listeners, if you would like a deeper dive into a topic discussed during a podcast, please subscribe to Aging in Place Strategies and Answers, where you will be able to access premium content. Or if you would like to suggest a topic for this podcast, please contact me at linda.agingstrategies@gmail.com. As always, I value the time you spend with me.